Hey everybody, how's everyone doing? I think I'm on the right. I think I got everything set correctly. So, let me make sure I got my microphone in more or less the right spot. I can close Restream because we're not going to be bothering looking at that. And yeah, we've got chat up. We've got Utkarsh saying hello. Hi, Utkarsh, how are you doing? I've got my water. It is May the 12th. And yeah, let's go. How's everybody doing today? It was kind of a shorter run-up than normal today. I got things started just a little bit late. And let's see. I don't think I need to do anything extra. So let's make a new project here. I'm going to call this bookstore. Create a new virtual ENV bookstore. Let that get creating. Well, we say hi to people. Hey, Osban, how are you doing? I've got the new OBS, and it's weird because it's showing me data that I'm used to only seeing when I do the FTL OBS for when I do like video game live streams. So it's kind of weird having like all this stuff here. All right, let's see. I'm gonna leave that alone. I'm just gonna hit create, and I gotta bring that over. I'm going to let that install Django and do stuff like that. I'm doing well. I'm doing well, everybody. Had a sick kid the last couple of days, but he's getting a lot better. You'll likely hear him yelling in the background at some point today. So yeah, things are doing well. Went in and filmed yesterday, filmed a new course. So it's nice to have that off my plate. And next week is PyCon, which is one of my favorite times of year every year, so that'll be great. I get to go and hang out with a bunch of Python people for 4 or 5 whole days, so that will be awesome. All right, this is taking quite a while to install Django. I'm not sure why it's taking so long. So what we're gonna do today, and this is different, I feel. What I'm going to do today is, last week I was working on my my project for PyCon. I'm giving a 3-hour tutorial at PyCon, and so I had to have some code ready to work on for the tutorial, and I needed a whole bunch of data in the database for people to work with for the tutorial. And I was like, well, I don't want to make data myself. That's boring. And if I want 40, 50 items, I don't want to make 40 or 50 items myself. I'm a programmer, so I'm lazy. And it's not the thing I want to be doing with my time. I need to be writing the tutorial, right? Like making the slides and everything. So I investigated a couple of packages that exist called one's called Faker and the other is called Factoryboy, and between these two and Django's management commands and data migrations, things like that, I was able to throw a bunch of data into the database really quick without me having to do a lot of work. So I was like, well, this would be a cool thing to show people. So that's what we're gonna do. We're going to work on I'm going to show you how to do this for your own projects. Whenever you have tests that you have to write and you don't want to write the data in itself, then this is a good way of doing it. So we have just a basic Django app here, which or a Django project, which we've called Bookstore, and I don't need to do anything special in there. But I am going to go and install these 2 apps because we're going to use them later. I'm not going to use them right this minute, but we are going to use them later. So let's go ahead and get them installed. So we need Faker, which is this package here. And let's see, we'll check on GitHub there. Yep, that's joke2k. So that will be the right one, joke2k right there. Okay, so install Faker. And then we're also going to install Factoryboy. So Faker is really cool. Faker will generate fake data. You just tell it what kind of fake data you want, and it'll generate. We'll play with it in the shell in a minute because it's really cool. And then Factoryboy. Yep, right there. Factoryboy is a really nice package that will let you take like your, not your model, sorry, let you take, yeah, you can take a Django model and have it generate fake data for that Django model, or you can tell it just, I need fake data that looks like this, you know, it has a name and an address and a phone number, and then it can just generate that fake data for you. So both of those are really cool for having those little features, and Factoryboy actually uses Faker behind the scenes. So let's say okay there, and let's hop over here into this Python console. Make that a little bigger. Make that a little smaller, because I don't remember what all the providers are, so we need to just look at them. All right, so let's just say, what is it? I think it's from Faker import Faker, and then we'll say fake equals Faker. It's been a little bit since I've used this, so we have to assume I remember how to do it. It's been like a week, but I've had a really busy week. No, that was not it. From Faker import factory, fake equals factory.create. Okay, so now we have this fake thing. And so fake is this... yeah, okay. So it's this, we've had this factory that we can do stuff on. Oh, my first one was right too. And so what's cool is we can do like fake.name, and there's us a name. There's Laura Washington. And every time we call this, we get a new fake name. Now, the names aren't going to be super international, like super worldwide. It's a little unfortunate. It would be nice to be able to guarantee that it is... you know, names that include Unicode characters, names that are single words or 5 or 6 words, or, you know, whatever. That would be really cool. That'd be really nice to have. But it doesn't do that. So, whatever. That's too bad. But the other nice thing is you can get other stuff. So if you need, like, fake address, all right, well, there's an address for somewhere in Clarkville, Georgia. Or fake.ssn. And there's a fake social security number. It's probably someone's actual social security number because, you know, that's how those things work. But it's fake as far as we don't have any idea who it belongs to. So as you can see, there is a large list of providers. You can do all sorts of things like getting some, you know, getting a job. So give me a fake job. Archaeologist, lobbyist, occupational therapist. Cool. Or you can do other fun things like fake.image URL, I think it was. And you can ask for like 250 by 250, and you get this, which is actually not a fake URL, which I think is really awesome. It gives you this... It's not a useful image as far as like attractive content, but it's nice if you need an image to fill in a block every time. Okay, so that's what Faker does. So Faker just gives us the ability to build these fake things. Factoryboy isn't going to be super useful just yet. We need to build up a couple of things first. So let's start doing that. So we have a bookstore. My idea for the app we were going to do today is to have it as a bookstore, so we have books and authors, probably like genres or whatever, maybe. And then we would have a very, very simple idea of tracking like purchases. So let's start app, and we'll call this books. And then we'll also start app, and we'll call this customers. So 2 apps that we need. And let's go ahead and stick them into our installed apps. So let's do books first and customers second, partly because that's alphabetical and partly because customers will probably rely on some of the stuff in books because we'll want to track the sales. So let's go ahead and get our books models going. So we'd have a book, right? And so a book has an author. Let's start with title. So char field, and let's say the max length for that is 255 characters. There's probably books out there with longer titles, but we're not going to worry about them for now. ISBN is a char field with a max length of, I think 30 is about as long as they ever get. Genre, char field. Actually, let's not do that as a char field. Let's do that as genres. And then we're going to say, we'll keep this really simple. We'll keep this as like poetry. And we'll paste a few more of these down here. Let's do like sci-fi. And let's do SFF. And we'll say science fiction fantasy. We'll say horror, war, romance, and then we'll just say, I don't know. That's good enough for now. Okay, so we'll pick one of those. So genre is that. Max length is, we'll say 15. Choices equals genres. And we'll give this also a default of nothing. And we'll say that blank is equal to true. Because since I don't have all of these genres spelled out for, like, you know, biology, geology, whatever, if it's nonfiction, we'll assume it doesn't have to have a genre. So we'll do fiction is a Boolean field. Default equals true. So that just lists whether or not it's a fiction book. And then we'll say author is models dot foreign key. And that's going to go to the author model, which we haven't defined yet, so we'll do that. And related name equals books. Class meta. We don't really have any meta we need for that. So string will return author or title by author. And we need a self in there. All right. So now let's define our author real quick. And we'll just have a name. That's it. We don't worry about anything else. Okay. So, class meta ordering equals name. Yeah. So they'll be ordered by their name, which, you know, we're actually going to have like first name, so the ordering will be weird, but whatever, it's fine. All right, so let's go ahead and generate our migrations for that. That was for books. All right, and let's migrate everything because we haven't created any of our normal stuff yet. And let's do a super user. All right, cool. So now if I was to do run server And I pop into admin here. And I come over here and go to admin. Cool. So now I can see my authors and I can see my books. Now I don't have any authors or books at this point, right? Like if I go to look at books, there's no books. And if I go to authors, there's no authors. Okay. So I want to have books and authors. So for now, though, let's not worry about having books and authors for us to actually work with. Let's write a test for these. So we'll come over here to tests. And normally we would do like book tests. And so this would be test case. And we would do like setup. We need to import our models. So we'll do like self.author equals models.author.create. Name equals Stephen King. He's an author that I like. And then let's say, you know, horror book or test. Horror book or test book creation. And so then we can say book equals models.book.create. Title equals it. Genre equals models.genres. You know what? This is the thing that I always forget to do, and it's really annoying. So let's do this. Wow. There we go. Okay. So it's fine. I'll just hard code it. There we go. Fiction is true. And ISBN equals 111111. Is that everything my model needs? Title, ISBN, genre, fiction, author. I need author. I haven't done the author yet. Author equals self.author. Self.assert in that book is in self.author.books.all. Right? Okay. So normally now at this point I'm going to go, okay, let's run these tests. Wow. Run that. Type object author has no attribute create. Oh, dot objects dot create. Because that's on the manager, not on the class itself. Okay, so that's fine. That test passes and we're good, right? So the test is fine. But I controlled everything in here, right? We know this is going to work because A, all I'm doing is Django's basic stuff. I'm not doing anything special or interesting. But secondly, I hard-coded everything. I knew that everything was going to be good. So that's not ideal for testing. You want tests that you know are going to pass, but you also want tests that they might fail if things aren't exactly correct. So let's add a couple more things here. Let's come over here and let's add another field. And so let's add a hardback. And most bookstores have mainly paperbacks, so I'm going to make that false. And let's also add a price. And that's going to be a decimal field. Now, decimal field is one that a lot of you might not have played with yet. So let's look at decimal field. So decimal field has 2 arguments, which are the max digits and the decimal places. And so because decimals can be multiple amounts of specificity, right? So what we want to do for this is we want to make sure that we have a set of numbers that makes sense. So let's say that decimal places is 2, because we only want 2 numbers after the dot, right? We're dealing with money. At least in America, it's dot and then up to 2 numbers. And then max digits is how many digits total we can have. So we've got 2 before or after the digit. How many do we want to have before the digit? I don't think in most bookstores it's common for a book to sell for more than, say, $9,000. Even that seems really high. So let's say 5. So that gives us 3 before the dot and then 2 after the dot. So we can have, at most, a $1,000, 1 penny under, $1,000 book. So I think that makes the most sense. So let's now add a class meta to this, and let's say unique together is hardback, title, and author. So we can have a copy of Stephen King's It in paperback and a copy of Stephen King's It in hardback. Okay? And all the copies in hardback are going to be the same price. All the copies in paperback are going to be the same price. This isn't 100% true, but this is the way that we're going to do it for our book. Okay, so we've changed the model, which means we now need to migrate again. So let's make migrations, books. Hey, pause and humanoid. Trying that a non-nullable field price to a book without a default. We can't do that. Database needs something. Provide a one-off default for this now. I'll add one for now, and we'll say it's 0.00. Okay. And so migrate books. Yeah, pause. Adding in or out of stock would make sense. Let's go ahead and do that. Let's add that one too. So in stock, it's a Boolean field, and default equals true. We'll assume that we have them in stock. We won't always have them in stock, but we'll assume that we always have them in stock. And yeah, we can go like way farther on what we would store for a book. We're gonna keep this somewhat lightweight for now, though. Okay, so now let's go back to our test, right? Because now our test probably won't pass. Let's try running it. Right, it didn't pass because we don't have a price for the book. Okay, so let's add in a price. So price is equal to $10. And that's going to be listed as a paperback already, so we should be good. Okay, so we're great there. All right, so but like I said, I want this to be not hard-coded. Humanoid, we are playing with a couple of things I had to build a week or so ago while I was working on my PyCon tutorial that I thought people might enjoy seeing. So we're going to end up doing like a data migration later, probably, if I can come up with a good one. And we're doing fake data factories right now to use in our tests. So, yeah. So let's make a factory. So I like to store all of my factories in a file. And factories are a little weird. But they're really cool, I think. So, first thing we need to do is import factory. And then we're going to make, we actually need to do from.import models as well. And then we're going to make an author factory. And we're going to say this is a Django model factory. Which, let's actually look at this one here with the ORMs, because I forget exactly how I had to do this. from factory.Django import Django model factory. There we go. And then I do a class meta, and I say that the model is models.author. And then I specify what the fields look like. So this is how this is kind of cool because they do like a thing where you can have it find objects if you wanted it to, but you don't have to, and we're not going to do that right now. So instead, we're going to come back over here to reference because, like I said, I keep forgetting how I did this. Where was? Yeah, there we go. Okay, cool. So what we want to do is we want to control the name, right? So we're actually going to do this as factory.faker, and then we tell it what we want. So we just want name. Okay, so now if I hop into my console and I say from books.factories import author factory, and now if I look at af.name, I get a name. So I did the factory, and the factory automatically fills in that field for me. Now that's the only field that I had, right? But that's okay. It's cool. I've got that. So let's use this in our test. And what we're going to do here is we're going to say factories.author factory. And that's still going to be author. And I'm not going to assert that thing there. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to test the string. So self.assert in self.author.name string version of the book. So make sure the author's name is in the string version of the book. And let's run the unit tests that are in there. Our test failed. Oh, it's because it keeps being run as that one will work, but I'd rather just run all the tests in there. So yeah, so we found that our string method is wrong, right? So now we got it by author object. That's not what we want. We want this to say self.author.name. So if we run our tests again, sweet. So now we know that that works, right? And it works no matter what the author's name is. We're just getting the name in. So that's really nice. All right, let's make a bigger factory, right? Because we need a factory for the book. And this is where I'm going to show you a really nice, neat trick. So let's do a book factory and Django model factory and class meta model equals models.book. Okay, and then because this is sometimes a little difficult to remember what all we need to have, let's paste that in. Okay, so our title is going to be a string, right? So we can have it choose like an existing string, like it can pick out something, but I don't want to do that. I want to use Faker for that. So for the title, we're going to we'll go to lorem. And lorem will give us words, sentences, whatever. So we'll use that, okay? So we'll do title equals, what is it? It's factory.lazy attribute. And then we can do a lambda. I always forget how they did this, though. Yep, okay. So lambda and in, and then we'll say space.join. And we need to do import faker. And then fake equals faker.faker. And we're going to join fake.lorem, fake.words. That'll make the most sense. And we have to tell it how many words we want. So let's say we want 3 words. So what this will do is this will call this lambda. That lambda will generate the words for us, and then we'll combine those words with spaces, because our title is obviously a string. It's not a list of strings. All right, ISBN is going to be factory.faker. Faker. I forget how to call the faker stuff. Where is the faker thing? Because the faker is really handy. There it is. Okay, so we just say factory.faker and then the thing we want. All right, so notice there's one here that says ISBN. So let's use that, and let's get ISBN 10, I guess. ISBN 10. Nope, just 10. Okay. And that gives us that. And then genre, we need to pick something out of our list of genres, right? So genre equals factory dot lazy sequence. Where was that one for the... iterator. Okay. So factory.iterator. And we will pass that models.genres. And then it's just going to pick successive genres. So the first one's going to be poetry, the next one's going to be whatever, as it works through this. So then fiction needs to be a Boolean. And I know there's a way to do a coin flip. Let's look at it in Faker. Yep. Factory.faker pybool. So that will randomly get true or false. And then we need to get author, which I'll come back to that one in a minute. Hardback is going to be factory.faker pybool. Same for in stock. I'll go ahead and do that one too. And then let's grab price real quick. Faker, if I can remember to spell it. Where is the money one? Currency? No. Yeah, it's actually under address, which is really weird. Random number, digits. I want a random float. No? Where did I find this one the other day? Oh, so instead of pi bool, we can actually just do Boolean. That's a little easier. Then we have binary. Null Boolean locale. Maybe I just did this one. Because you can do pi decimal. Yeah. Alright. So we'll say pi decimal. Decimal. And then we say left digits. The max there is 3. Right digits. The max there is 2. And positive has to be true. We don't want any negative prices. Right? Okay, so what about author? Because I was like, oh, we've got to, you know, I want to do author, and I want to do author as something special. So author is actually really cool. You can do factory.subfactory, and then you can tell it which subfactory you want to use. So let's see if I can find the where the thing is here on that one. Subfactory. There we go. So this will call a different factory and use that wherever you called this one. So here we're going to say author factory. And that's it. So now we have our book factory done. So this is the fun part. This is the neat part. So I don't need that anymore. Right? And so what I can do is I can say like book equals factories dot book factory. And I can still do this. I can say book.author.name in string book. And now I can run that test, and it should still pass. Factor is not implemented. Did I say factor somewhere? I did. All right, let's try running that test again. Author factor. So many typos. Cool. So it still works. That's really nice. So I can generate these factories without having to hard code everything myself. And so like let's have it pause right here. And let's run the test with the debugger so that we can look and see what the book looks like at that point when it generated the book. So here's our book. And if we look here at all the different things here, here's the title, which really we should have called like .title on that, but whatever. Our price, this is a $649.50 book. That's a pretty expensive book. There's the ISBN number that it generated. It is not currently in stock. It is hardback. It is poetry. So on that one, we might have to change how it does that, because I don't know if that'll save or not. It is fiction, and it's linked to this author over here who has the name Nicole Wells. So that's cool. We didn't have to generate any of that ourselves. We let Python and the test runner and the Factoryboy thing do all of that for us, which is, you know, nice. It's nice to not have to do that yourself. So let's go ahead and let's fix this model here real quick, because I was complaining about this a while ago. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this, and I'm putting whatever the value is on this left side into a constant up here. So we're going to have horror, and we're going to have war, and we're going to have romance. All right, and so this is going to be horror. It's going to be war. And this is going to be romance. And the reason to do this is so that the thing that you're controlling for each special case is what it looks like here. But you can reference the value that's stored in the database from anywhere you want using this constant, which saves you a lot of headache if you're swapping things back and forth. So let's go ahead and change those real quick. So that'll be SFF. And that'll be horror. Horror. And that'll be war. And that'll be romance. And genres is still going to stay the same. But what we could do is we could take this and put it down here inside of the model, because this implementation of it belongs to the model, right? And then back over here in our factories, we say models.poetry, models.sff, models.horror, models.war, and models.romance. And it will pick one of those and give us the correct value whenever we create the object. Just to make sure of that, I want to run that with the debugger again, so we can check that value that we got for genre. Oh, I took out the stop. There we go. Cool. So here's our book, and our genre now is appropriately the string poetry instead of being the tuple of poetry and capital poetry, right? So cool. That's nice. And we can get rid of that. And let's fix our one other thing that we had here, which was that this should be title. Because we want to give back the title case of that, not the lowercase version. All right, cool. So we have our author and we have our book. So let's now look at doing our purchase part, our customer part. Okay, so this is going to be somewhat similar, but we're going to have a couple of things here that are a little bit, you know, we just have to build up a couple of things. Okay, so first of all, let's make a model that is our customer model. And we'll just give them a name. And yes, I know names can be longer than that, but let's not worry about that for right now. We'll say they have an email address. And we'll say they have an address. And they have an address too. And this one can be blank. And the default value for this is an empty string. And they have to have a city. And they have to have a state. Technically, this could probably be like considered province or whatever, but you know, I'm just going to leave it like this. And they have to have a country. And this is one where I'd probably want to start thinking about bringing in like an outside project that has like a list of all the world's countries and a list of all the states and provinces in the world, and then fill in values from that so that it's kind of controlled. But for right now, I'm not going to worry about that. And postal code is also a char field. Does anyone in the chat have a postal code that's greater than, say, 10 characters long? I'm going to mark that as 15, but, you know, we'll find out. Okay, so there's our customer. Email has to be unique. We only have one customer per email address. And our string on this will be the name, the customer's name. Okay, nothing really fancy or different here, right? All right, so now let's do a purchase. So this is a purchase that a customer made. And let's give this a customer. And that's going to be a foreign key. Back up there to customer. And related name can be purchases. And then books, this can be a many to many field. And that will go to books.book. So this just goes to the books app, and then looks for the books model, or the book model. And related name on that can also be purchases. That'll be fine. And then let's say placed at is a date time field, and default equals now. Or from Django.utils import time zone. No, wait. Yeah. And then we do timezone.now. That's it. Okay. So purchase record is just holding on to this customer bought these books at this point. Okay? That's all we're going to have. Okay. So then we want... I think we're good for now. That's enough. Okay. So now let's go ahead and make our migrations. Okay. And we'll go back to run server. Just because. And let's look at our... Oh, we didn't add them to admin. Let's do that. Cool. So now we have our customers, and we have our books, and we have our purchases, and we have all of that stuff, right? So we could add a customer that purchased a copy of 5 books. This is really boring right now, right? Because there's no content in it. We're going to add that content in a minute. We're going to do that with a fun management command. And we may or may not need to do it with a data migration, but we're definitely going to do it with a management command. So first off, though, let's write our factories. So let's make a new file here that we'll call factories.py. And I'm just going to copy these into here. So we want to say from factory import factory. And from factory.django import Django model factory. And we want to say from faker import faker. And from dot import models. And we actually want to say from books dot factories import book factory. Because we're going to need that later whenever we make our purchase model, right? Or our purchase factory, rather. So first we'll make our customer factory. And it'll be a Django model factory. And the meta is going to be models.customer. All right, so now let's start filling out these fields. So our name, again, we want to use the faker thing. So we'll say factory.faker. And inside here, we will say name. Email here, we again want factory.faker. And this one, I'm pretty sure is just email, but let's double check. Is that internet? Okay, so we have kind of a choice here. We can have a company email, we can have a free email, or there's just plain email. Okay, so we'll just do plain email because, whatever. Okay, so now address. Address is a fun one. So we're going to use this for several bits here. So the first thing we want is we want address. But we don't want all of address because address does this whole big thing. So we just want street address for that one. Factory, faker. And in here we want street address. And then for this one, we're going to do this as a... Let me show you how to do this, actually. Let's do a new thing here. So we do factory.lazy attribute. And then here we would say address 2. Is that one that we had in our model? Yeah, address 2. And that just takes self. Let me double check that I'm right on that lazy attribute thing. Yeah, we can do like that, but we can also do it as a where was that one at? Yeah, there's the post generation. There it is. Okay, so it's lazy underscore attribute. Okay, so what we want to do in here is we want to pick a random number. And if that random number is true, so if random.choice, and then we'll fill this in with like a bunch of zeros, and then we'll add a 1 to the end of it. Wait. There it is. Okay, so we're going to make a list. We'll make this 9. We're going to make a list of 9 zeros, and then we're going to add a 1 onto the end of it, and then we're going to have random pick a random item out of that list. If it picks the 1, so we have a 1 in 10 chance of it picking it, then we're going to have this return faker. Oh, we should have made our thing here. So fake equals faker. There we go. Then we're going to do fake dot, and what is the one that we want here? Your second one wouldn't be street address, it would be secondary address. Okay, so since this is named address 2, whenever it's trying to fill in the address 2 field, it will call this function. So this is nice if you have functions that you need to do a bit of stuff to figure out what should go in there. So city is pretty much back to the same thing. And that would be city, pretty sure. City prefix. City, yeah, so there's city. Okay, cool. State is also going to be a factory faker. And I'm pretty sure that is just state. Yeah, so we've got state abbreviations, but we can also just do state, and it'll fill it in with, like, Ohio or whatever. Country. So we can do country codes, and we can do countries spelled out. Let's just go ahead and do countries all the way spelled out. And postal code. You all get the idea by now. That is postal code. I think it's all one word. Yep, there we go. Postal code. Okay, cool. So now we have our customer that's coming in, right? And we know that it's a randomly generated customer here. So, cool. We don't need that string. That string's useless at this point. So now let's make our other Django model factory here. And this one, we know from previously that we can have this be a subfactory so that we don't even have to create the customer, right? Factory.subfactory. And this would be customer factory. But many-to-manys are a little bit different. And in fact, I don't think I've done a many-to-many like this. I've done many-to-manys, but they were done differently. So let's look up what they recommend here for many-to-many. They don't have it there. Is it in common recipes? Yeah. So here's this factory. Okay, user's the one that has the many-to-many. Name John Doe. And then post generation, they do groups. If it's a simple build, it's that. But if a list of groups are done, it's that. Okay. So I want to make it to where it always grabs some books. So we're going to do this in post generation. And for now, let's just say return. So there's no books in there right now. We'll come back and fill that in a minute. And then placed at can actually just be left alone. That can always be time zone now. No, let's fill that one in too. Placed at factory.faker, and we need to get a fake date out of that. And what's cool is we can do, like, we can say it was done this decade, this year, this century, like, kind of whatever we want, which is a nice thing to have. So, or we can just do it within AD, sometime between now and the year 0, which is fun. So let's make sure they're all this year. Okay, so we're gonna say date, time, this year, and the rest of that can be left alone. All right, because before now can be true, after now can be false because we want it to be between here and previously, and then TZ info we're not gonna pass in a time zone, at least not right now. We might do a time zone later. I don't think we can have it grab a random time zone like that. That won't... I don't think that'll work. Okay. But this needs to be a factory.faker. No, wait, that doesn't need to be there. Okay. So now we got to talk about books. Hey, Ryan. Right now we're playing with Factoryboy and Faker to generate fake data for our tests for a Django project, and then in a little bit we're gonna do. I'm gonna show you all how to do data migrations, which are a nice thing about the migrations part of Django, and also how to do like management commands, which are, I think a lot of people don't really know how to do, and they're kind of cool, but they're also kind of weird. So we'll get to those. We'll get to those in a minute. Okay, so their example here. Let me talk a little bit about what they're doing right here. So, because this is kind of cool. So you can see here that they have this post generation, which that means that this function gets called after the factory has generated its object, right? So the factory has gone and made a fake user in their case, and then this function, this method gets called, this groups method, okay? And it gets 4 arguments, or sort of 4 arguments. It gets self and it gets quargs. We can ignore those because we don't know what they're going to be. But it gets create and it gets extracted. And so create is going to be a Boolean that says whether or not this has been called as either the .build method on the factory, which will build an instance of the factory, or on just by creating an instance of the factory itself, right? If that's true, then we're not going to make any groups, and we're just going to leave it as empty. We're going to leave it, there's no groups. But if there has been a list of groups passed in, then extracted will have something in it, and it's going to look through each of those groups, and it's going to add those groups to this one. So we could generate a list of books, and we could generate a user, and then we could generate a purchase, and we could pass through the books that the user purchased. Okay? That's cool. That's handy. But I don't think it's necessarily what we want to do. I think we want to have this in 2 different ways, right? We want to have created, and we want to have extracted. And we'll take quarks just in case anything else comes in. But I don't think we want to rely on created being... I don't think if created is false, we want to make it... or if created is true, rather, that we want to make it blank. I think we want to actually have something in there, right? So let's say if created, and then here we'll say return for now, but we actually want to generate some books to put in this in a minute. Otherwise, let's say if extracted, there we go. Then we'll say self.books.add. Oh yeah, so if extracted for book in extracted, because extracted will be a list of books, then self.books.add book. Okay, so if I pass in 10 books, add those 10 books to the purchase. And this would be where, like, if I'm testing that it adds up the price of all the books correctly and gives me, you know, the right total. But if it's set to created, what do I want it to do? Well, at that point, I want it to generate a list of books. So let's say books equals book factory. Let's go over here and let's look at the factory, because I forget how I call that to generate a certain number of things. Those aren't what I want. Those aren't what I want. Reference. Module level functions. Okay, make factory instance building. There we go. Build batch. That's what I want. So if that's the case, let's say book factory.build batch. Oh no, that's not how we do it. We do it like this. Factory.build batch. And we pass in the name of the factory, or the factory itself, rather, which is build factory. And then we pass in yeah, okay. And we pass in a size. So let's make the size be a random int between 1 and, let's say they buy 10 books at the most. And then for book in books, self.books.add book. And then this way we can team up on this, and we could pass in like a list of books as well, I guess. Okay, so we don't ever use those quarks, and that's okay. So now, let's test out yeah, it should just be import factory. Okay. There we go. Okay, and then here I needed to do class meta model equals models dot purchase. Okay, I don't think I've forgotten anything here. Okay, cool. So now let's test our factory. And let's just make a factory. Let's go over here to our tests. From dot import factories class purchase tests test case, and we'll say def test basic purchase equals factories dot purchase factory self dot assert greater purchase dot books dot count 0. So we bought more than 0 books. I think that seems like a safe thing to assume. Let's come up here, go to run. There we go. Customers.factories has no attribute purchase factory. Does it not? No, it just has purchase. There we go. Not null constraint. Failed. Oh, because we didn't return anything on this. So if that random choice doesn't happen, then we want to return an empty string. We get a runtime warning because we got a date time that doesn't have a time zone, even though we have time zone support turned on. But our tests passed. So cool. Let me show you what I did here again. So we had this address 2, and we had it to where it only returned anything if it picked the correct value. So what I did is, if it doesn't pick the true value, then it returns an empty string, which is fine. That's what we expect to have. So cool. So that worked. We generated a customer. We generated some books for him to purchase, and we generated the purchase history thing. All right. So yeah, let's add one more thing. Let's add a new thing to our purchase model here. Let's add a property, and we'll call it total. So the total is going to be the sum of books dot values list price. I think that's going to work. Test total. Okay, so there is our purchase. We've made our purchase with all of our fake data, right? So now let's generate our own total for this. And so we'll say that it's 0. We'll do this the long way. So for book in purchase.books.all, total plus equals book dot price, right? Because that's what we called it in the model, right? Price, yeah. Okay. Self dot assert equal purchase dot total and our total. Run those tests again. Books is not defined. I wrote bad code there. Which is true. This would be self.books. Okay, let's run the tests again. Unsupported operand type plus for int and tuple. Oh, this needs to be flatten equals true. Because we want a flat list. We don't want the instance thing. Flat, not flatten. I could have sworn that was flatten. Cool, but that test now passes. So we know that our property here does what we expect it to do, compared to us spelling it out in a long form and making sure that we're doing every bit and piece correctly, right? So you can see how the factories are kind of nice, because I don't have to come in here, in here, I don't have to come in here and say, okay, make me a purchase that has, this book, and this book in it, and the prices all add up to 10, and then let's make sure that this equals 10, right? I can let Python and Django handle all of that behind-the-scenes stuff for me, and I don't have to do the work myself. So, big fan of the factories for stuff like this. Like, that's really nice to have. Okay, so now let's say that I'm getting ready to put this up, and I want to make sure that when I put it up, there are some customers already in here. Okay? Well, actually, first, let's stop for a minute. Are there any questions about Faker or Factoryboy or Django or writing tests or anything like that? And let's turn it over to questions for a minute. I see that Finn King Gaming here said they want to get Treehouse, but they don't know whether they want to get Basic or Pro. Ryan gave a pretty good answer on that, actually. There's not a huge difference between Basic and Pro. Pro has access to a few courses and workshops that Basic does not. I say few. It's several, but I don't know the exact number. And then Pro also does let you download videos if you want to watch them when you don't have internet readily available. So that's kind of nice. But as far as features, like, they both have the same, code challenges and quizzes and teacher's notes and all that kind of stuff. Like, the core thing is the same between them. Pro has some content that Basic doesn't, and Pro lets you download things. Excuse me. So yeah, any questions about what we've done so far before we get into the data migrations and the management commands? All right, I'll see if any of them come in as I'm working through the next stuff, but if not, that's cool. Sorry. What's the difference between build batch and create batch? Anything? Okay, not gonna worry about that. Doesn't matter at this point. Okay, so let's make the data migration. So let's back up for a second and let's talk about migrations. We've been making migrations so far, right? We made, here, we'll open up one. We made this migration, Django created this migration for us to where it created our customer model and it created our purchase model, right? And we added in these fields. And it specified what the fields look like, right? So we brought this in. Django automatically generated this. And you see it has this operations list where it runs create model twice, right? So this is cool. This is an automatic model migration. Django does these all the time whenever you create new models or you change fields or you do whatever it is that you do. So that's cool. That's really handy. Sometimes, though, you need to put your own data into the database, and it needs to be part of, like, the setup. Yeah, Tanner. Just a second, and I'll go over that. So the place that you do that is by creating a... you can create, like, a SQL file or whatever and have people run that, but that's really annoying. The better way to do it, in my opinion, is to create a data migration, which, as you can probably pick up from the name, is a migration for doing data. So we'll make one of those in just a second. Tanner asks, could you do an overview real quick on the purpose or purposes and use cases for factories? So yeah, so the reason that you use a factory is two things. The first one is that you don't always want to have to create all the data yourself every single time you're creating a model instance for, like, a test, right? So, like, we were writing these tests, and we don't want to have to define... Like, think about if we define a purchase, right? So we're making a purchase in a test. So we have to make a purchase, okay? So we have to make that model instance. But a purchase requires a customer. So we have to go and create a customer as well. So now we've made a purchase, and we've made a customer. And then a purchase also requires books, at least one book. So we have to go create a customer, we have to go create a purchase, and we have to go create at least one book, and then we have to put them all together in the test before we can actually do the test, right? Where we just want to say, like, make sure the string is correct, or make sure the cost is $10 or whatever. That's a lot of work to have to do before we can go and write a test. So we don't want to do that if we don't have to. So that's where factories come in and they let us do that. there's another option for doing that, which is called a fixture. And a fixture is a JSON file, I think they can be XML as well, that just stores a whole bunch of instances of each of your different models. So you would go and create 5 different customer fixtures and 5 different book fixtures and 5 different purchase fixtures that had those customers buying those books and doing whatever, right? That's cool. That's great. It works really well until you change your model. And then once you change your model, you have to go and change your fixtures. And fixtures are like just stored over to the side somewhere. They're really easy to forget. They're really easy to forget to fix or to update. And sometimes they're really hard to fix or update. They're really annoying to fix or update. So fixtures aren't a great idea. Factories let you completely ignore fixtures. You can just never, ever touch fixtures ever again in your life. And you still get all the benefits of fixtures without having fixtures. So factories come in, and factories are really handy for that kind of thing, where I need this test data, I need this fake data, but I don't need fixtures. And then by combining a factory with something like Faker, where you could have it potentially generate bad data for you so that you can make your tests fail, and maybe fail randomly, so you don't know when it's going to fail, but you have to have written the code to handle when it fails, and then the test makes sure that it fails correctly. That's also really nice and handy. So tell me, Tanner, if that answers your question or not, but I'm going to start on these model migrations. So I want to do model migrations for books. I want to add in a couple of books. So I'm going to come down here, and I'm going to do make migrations. And I'm going to specify that it's an empty migration. Excuse me. And that means that there's not going to be anything stored in that migration. Okay, so it's just going to give me a shell of a migration file. And then I'm going to give it a name. And for the name, I'm just going to say preload books. And then I have to tell it what app this belongs to. So this is going to belong to my books app. So when I press enter, it runs that tiny little bit. And you can see right here, if we synchronize this. Come on, PyCharm. You can do it. I believe in you. There we go. So now we have this new file, which is 0004 preload books. And it looks just like a regular migration. It is a regular migration, right? It just doesn't do anything right now. So let's make it do something. And to do that, I'm actually going to pull up the Django docs, because I always forget the order of these arguments, or what these arguments are supposed to be. That's it. Okay. So let's make a new function that we're going to call forwards, but you can honestly call this literally anything you want. And it's going to take 2 arguments, apps and schema editor. And we're not going to touch schema editor. Okay? We're not messing with schema editor. That's beyond what I want to talk about today. Just ignore it. Pretend it doesn't exist. But apps is really handy, because apps is a thing that lets us get access to what the model looks like at the point where the migration was written. Now, we don't care what the model looks like when the migration is run. We only care what the model looks like when the migration was created. Because I may have, this is 0004, right? I may have all the way up to 00120 in my migrations. And those may change this model in who knows what kinds of ways. But this migration still has to be able to run, so it has to be able to run at the point where it was written, so in the flow of things, and so it has to have access to what the model looked like at that point. So we're going to go ahead and get the model as it looks like right now. So we're going to say book is equal to apps.get, what is it? See, like I said, I always forget what this thing looks like. And I've written several of these. There it is. Apps.getModel. And then we pass in the app name, which is books, and then we pass in the model name, which is book. Okay? So I use the capital B here because we're going to pretend that this is our model like we imported it, right? So just like we had done from models, import, book, same idea. Okay? So that's our book there. So let's do book.objects.bulk create. And we're going to create a couple of books. Now, unfortunately, our book model is not the smallest model I've ever made in my life. But that's okay. I am confident that I can type this out at least once. So I'm going to paste it in here and then comment it all out. And then I do need up here to say from ... models import we'll just make all of the we'll import poetry, SSF, horror, war, and romance. We'll import all of those. That's fine. Okay, so at this point, we have our different genres that we can potentially make a book be. And then we know that we have all of these things to fill out. So let's make a book. So let's make, we'll go back to using the one that we used before. And the ISBN is going to be equal to some random numbers. Genre is going to equal horror, which we imported. Oh, I forgot my comma there. Fiction is going to be equal to true. Author, I'm going to have to create an author. That's going to be fun, but we'll do that in a minute. Hardback, I'm going to say this is a hardback copy of it. Price, we're going to say is $9.99. And in stock is going to be false. Okay. So now we also need to get an author. But author should probably be imported as it is at this point. Yeah. So author equals apps.get model, the books app, and the author model. So author equals author.objects.create, name equals Stephen King. Okay, and then author here is going to be King, and we're good. Okay, we've created one book. Ta-da! We have one book. Okay, so if I want, right now, I can add this forwards migration to my list of things to do, and it will create that book. Okay? So, great. That's really all I needed it to do. But that said, it's a little... It's not that amazing, right? Like, it only created one book. Let's go ahead and do it. But, I don't know that we're going to actually do... I don't know that we're actually going to keep this. So, run Python is a method, or it's a class that we call like it's a function, that will run some Python code when we do the migration. So we're going to tell it to run forwards. Okay? Now, some of you may not have caught this. It took me a little while to catch it when I first got into this. Excuse me. The reason they're called migrations is because they go forwards and backwards, right? Just like birds migrate like to the south and then back to the north, or to the north and then back to the south. Migrations go forwards and migrations also go backwards. So we have to tell the migration what to do when we roll back the migration. Like what should we do when we go back? And that all depends on what you're doing, right? The basic one that's built in is you do this reverse code. Let's go ahead and add this in. So reverse code is migrations.run python.noop. Okay? So noop just does nothing. If we run this migration forward, it will add this book, or it'll try to, right? If we back the migration up, it just skips the migration and doesn't do anything. And if we were to run the migration forward again, then it would try to create this book again. Which means really we should probably have like, let's take that out. Let's just create this one explicitly. Right? So we'll do try. And we'll say book.objects.create. And it's going to try to create that. Except integrity error, which we need to import up here. If there's an integrity error, then just pass. Just don't even try to do anything. Okay, so if we run this and we back it up and we try to run it again, nothing's going to happen, right? We're still going to have the record in the database. I don't know about you, but I don't want the record in the database. I want that record to be gone. So let's make a backwards. And this is also going to take apps and schema editor. And since we're not going to use schema editor, we could honestly just do like star or, you know, whatever. Like star quargs. But we'll just keep in schema editor just to be done with it. So what we want to do here is we again want to get our book model. And we again want to get, we want to do both of those. Or all of those, rather. Okay, but we don't need to do king equals objects.get or create. We want to do like try except author.does not exist. Then we're going to say pass. Or no, we'll say king equals none. And then we're going to do the same thing here. Actually, no, we need an else. So yeah, this can be a pass. And this would be king.delete. And then we would do try it equals book.objects.get title equals it. And hardback equals true. What was our thing that we had on this unique together? Title and author. Okay. Let's actually move this one down to here. And we'll say author equals king. Oh, we need that up here. We just need to get rid of that else. Nope, we need it like that. Except book.object does not exist. Pass. Everything's cool, I guess. And so at this point, we want to do it.delete and king.delete. And there might be some failures in there. I don't know. But the reverse code at this point should now be backwards. Okay? So if we move forwards, we delete the book. If we create the book. If we move backwards, we delete the books. The book that we created. Cool. let's try running these and see what happens. So let's just say migrate books. And now if I pop over, oop, I got a run server. If I pop over here and I refresh this and I look in the books, there's a book, It by Stephen King, right? And that reminds me, I did not create a stir on my author. There, now it says Stephen King, right? So it's fiction, it's hardback, it's not in stock. And if I come back over here and I migrate books to 0003, so I roll back the migration, and I refresh this, and I run server. Keep forgetting to do that. And I refresh this. There's no books. I don't have that book. Okay? So we got a forwards and we got a backwards. Cool. Handy. Now, I could very easily change this to use the factory, right? I could have it use the factory, and I could pre-fill things, or I could just generate random data. I don't care what's there, right? So I might do that. That might be a thing worth doing. I'm not going to worry about it right now, though. Excuse me. I also only need horror because I didn't create any of the books. Because that's a pain to create those books that way, right? So most likely if I want this data, I want it for one of two reasons, right? I either want it because I'm migrating an old set of data into my new app, into my shiny new Django project. And in that case, I probably want to use Python and SQL to just move stuff from the old database over in a logical way, right? Or I'm going to turn it into like CSVs or JSON or something, fixtures, and I'm going to bring it in like that. Those are cool. Those are fine. Let's look at making a management command, though, that will just give me a whole bunch of books and purchases and authors. But before we do that, as usual, any questions about data migrations and how you build these things, how they move backwards, forwards, that kind of stuff? Any questions about the wonderful, fun, exciting world of data migrations? And if not, then we will start working on management commands. Management commands are an area that I know so many people, myself included, that have been coding in Django, coding in Python, or Django, Python doesn't matter, coding in Django for 5+ years. I mean, I myself, I've been using Django for 6 years now? I don't know. However long, a long time. Just ridiculously long time. I don't know how to make management commands off the top of my head. I do now, well, partly because I made a bunch of them a weekend or two ago, but I couldn't tell you how to just, like, I couldn't just recite it. I'm going to have to look up docs in a minute to do it. But, yeah. But yeah, so anyway, any questions about data migrations so far? We good? Seems like everybody's got it pretty well figured out. Okay. So let's start with this. So not in bookstore, in customers. So I'm going to make a new directory here that's called management. And inside management, I need a file, which is init.py. But I don't actually need to see init.py. I don't care about init.py. And then inside of that, I'm going to make another new directory called commands. And inside there, I'm going to make another new file named init.py, which I also don't need. Morton, this is Python. We're using the Django framework, but it's still just Python code. Okay, so then inside commands, this is where we make a file for each command that we want to run. And you've all played with commands if you've done any Django, because run server, right? Manage Python manage.py run server. Run server is a management command. Make migrations is a management command. Migrate is a management command. These are all management commands. We're going to make our own, and they're a thing. Marine knows what I'm talking about. So let's just call this generate purchases. Okay, so generate purchases.py. And now let's come over here and let's do Django management command. Let's look those up because I can't remember the imports. The imports are ridiculous. So yeah, there we go. We have management and we have commands and we have our thing there. And that's what we need. We need that line right there. Okay. So we're going to have two imports, command error and base command. And we're going to say from dot dot gets up to commands dot dot models or not models, factories. Import purchase factory. Okay. And then we're going to generate our command. And this class here has to be called command, and it has to inherit from base command. Okay, so these are our required names. Yeah, they're just kind of horrible. but that's okay. Cuz, we call them whatever they are. So then we specify some help, and this will say generates in purchases. In number purchases. Sure, something like that. Okay, and we're gonna have two methods here called add arguments. Add arguments lets us add arguments. It's very well named. It lets us add arguments to the command. So in this case, we want to add a count or a length or a number. We want the user to tell us how many purchases to generate. Okay? So we're going to do something kind of like this, but we don't care about this in args. We don't care about the number of args or whatever, right? So we're going to have to look up how to do this in a different way. So we call add argument, and poll ID that holds on to, yep, okay, that's the name. Okay, so let's call this num, and nargs, let's come back over here and let's look at argparser. Argpars. If you ever want to see like one of the most horrible parts of Python to try and play around in, go look up argpars. Argpars has just some of the most ridiculous stuff to try to figure out. It's really cool. It does some really neat stuff. But that said, it's horrible. So we want nargs to be 1 because we only want one argument, right? So however many arguments come in, it's fine. But we want these put in. So we could actually also do this with a question mark, and that would give us like a static value. So if nobody passed in a number of things they wanted, we would just automatically generate 10 of them. Which actually, maybe we want to do that. Let's do that. Let's do question mark, and we say default is equal to 10. And then we also want to specify the kind, which is going to be type equals int. So give us an int. You have to give us an integer. You can't generate 3.2 purchases. You got to do it this way. Okay. So that's all we're doing is we're adding the argument. And now we have to write another method that's named handle. And handle has to take args And then they call it options. Really, that would be like kwargs. But it's options because it's all of these arguments that come in and like some other things that you may or may not generate. Okay. So, does that kind of make sense so far? That's the way we want to start doing that. So what we're going to do here is we're going to do purchase factory dot build what was that thing? Not factory options. Instance building. Build batch. That's it. So we need import factory. So here we need factory.build batch. And that needs to be purchase factory. And size is equal to options.get. That's the way we do that, right? No, we just specify options. Options, and then we called this num. Okay, so we're going to generate that number of purchases, and then we can print out a nice... No, don't search that. We can print out a nice message. So we can use standard out, and we're going to write to standard out. Standard out is your command line by default. And the success, we'll print it in like green, right? So we'll just say successfully generated something purchases. Okay, and then that's going to be num or options num. So we generated 5 purchases or 10 purchases or whatever purchases, right? Okay, so now let's try this management command because, hey, we just made one. I probably need to restart that bit though. So run manage.py task. Beyond top level package. Did it now. I thought that import might be a little weird. There we go. Okay. So let's run. What did we call this? We called this generate purchases. Generate purchases. Now I'm not going to pass in a number and it should build 10 of them, right? So we just run that. Takes a little bit. We're probably going to get several of these runtime warnings. And this takes a little while, but it's got to generate a lot of different things, right? It has to generate books. It has to generate customers. It has to generate the purchase order things. It's got to generate a lot of these things. So let's just let this run for a bit. Actually, while that's running... Oh, no, because we don't have run server going. Let's see if we can get run server going. We'll run run server in the terminal there because we don't really need it in here. So now if we go look at purchases, oh, we can't look at it because the database is locked. Okay, we gotta wait for it to end. So while that's running, any questions or comments in the chat? I see Fikra Color and Simon joined. Okay, there we go. So now we got the message, successfully generated 10 purchases. So let's go ahead and run server here. Refresh this. And there we go. We got our 10. See, we've got 10 purchases. There's our 10 purchase objects. If we come in and we look in here, we can see This time they bought, what is that, 5 things, right? And if we come over here and we look at our customers, and we come look at customers, we've got 10 random customers. So, like, here's Jennifer Stevens. Her email address is aaronfuller@smith.com, which is pretty fun. And there's her address, and she lives in South Caseyfort, Vermont, which is in Bolivia, apparently. So that's cool. And if we come over here and we look at authors, we got a whole bunch of authors, 57 of them, and I bet we have 57 books as well, 56 books. So apparently we got a repeat author on a couple of them. So that's cool. It generated all that random data for us without us having to generate it ourselves, right? So that's pretty nice. Yeah, you also might want to build a command that handled, like, you know, clearing out all of the things. So let's add that actually as a thing. Let's add a custom command, or an optional command rather, that will clear out everything before it generates new ones. So maybe we changed our factory or something. We need to change all of these, right? So let's add parser.add argument, and we have to give this a name. So let's say clear. I think that makes more sense. And the action is going to be store true. And this is one of the weirdest parts to me of argparse. So let's where is the thing? Action. Okay, so action is weird. Okay? It's only weird, though, to me for store true and store false. Like, it's weird for all of them, but for store true and store false, it's really weird. So for store true, it will only store the value if the value is true. Otherwise, by default, it stores false. So if the thing is there, it stores true. Otherwise, it stores false. Store false works the other way around, where it only stores the value that was passed in if the value was false. Otherwise, it stores true. It's really weird, but we only want to store clear. We only want to say to clear this if they actually passed in clear, right? Otherwise, we want to just ignore it and we want to set it to false. So we save store. We set the action as store true. I need to do a course or something over argparse because it's so weird. So we'll store that into a thing called clear. Our default on that is indeed false. And the help can be clear out all purchases before generating new ones. Before generating new. Sure, something like that. That makes sense, right? Okay. So now in here, we want to do if options clear. And then in that case, we need to say models import purchase purchase.options or objects.delete. That will delete all of them. All of them. It will wipe them out. Okay? So, now, we should be able to stop this. Kill that. Run that. So now we should be able to do generate purchases. We should be able to say clear. And then we should be able to say to. Has no attribute delete. Oh, that's right. We stored it in clear. Do I need to do .all? a little weird. I'm pretty sure that command exists, or that thing exists. There we go. So it should have cleared them, and then we've just generated 2 new ones. We're generating 2. Come on, generate it. You can do it. Come on. Come on. There we go. All right, and now if we do run server, and we go look at our authors, we should just have... Oh, I didn't delete them all. But now we have 68 authors instead of all the ones we had before. So that just cleared out the purchases. I think to fix that, we need to go to our models. And we need to say here... no, we should leave the models if we delete the books. On delete equals... What do we want there? Let's not worry about it for now. It's fine. Anyway, we can see that it worked, right? We got rid of... we only have 2 purchase objects now. It deleted the old ones. We only have 2 of them now. It may have killed our customers too. No, we still have our customers. Okay. So it generated 2 new customers, and we have 2 purchase objects now. So we have customers that don't have any purchases, but that's fine. But then we have purchases now that have, you know, whatever. So... neat. I think. I like being able to do these commands like this. It's handy for generating fake data. This was exactly what I needed for PyCon, by the way. I need the ability for them to generate this fake data in the database so that we could get right into doing the tutorial parts for the tutorial at PyCon. We didn't have to go and generate data. We didn't have to go and, you know, import fixtures or anything like that. We could just start doing the code. So we got about 5 minutes left until the stream is over. I guess it's technically like 7. But this is a great time to ask questions. I will answer all the questions that I can. I've got a question for all of you, though. Are any of you going to be at PyCon this coming week here in Portland, Oregon? If you are, I'd love to meet you. Excuse me, I'm going to be there. I'm speaking. I'm giving a tutorial. And then I will just be at the conference just to hang out. I love PyCon. It's one of my favorite times of the year. So if you're going to be at PyCon, let me know. Say hi. You know, hit me up on Twitter or something, and we'll meet up. But yeah, any questions about management commands, custom data migrations, factories, Faker, Factoryboy, Django, Python, Treehouse, anything, any questions for our last couple of minutes together? What's everybody thinking about? And if you want, I can put those up on GitHub as well. I don't think any of it's really all that amazing of code. It's not necessarily worth looking through, but if you want me to put it up, let me know and I will. Again, tweets, chat, whatever. But yeah, what questions do you all have for Pause? You wish you were going to PyCon this year, maybe next year. Yeah. I mean, tickets are sold out, so you can't go to PyCon now, even if you wanted to, or if you had the means of going, you couldn't go even if you wanted to, because it's sold out. But DjangoCon tickets are still open. DjangoCon is going to be in Spokane this year, up in Washington, and we just started telling people whether or not their talks were accepted. Those are going to be going out over the next couple of days, so watch for a schedule to be posted in a few weeks, I'm guessing, a week or two. We'll have a full schedule for DjangoCon US. It's going to be an amazing conference this year. I am very biased when I say that, as I'm on the program committee, so I helped pick out talks and tutorials. But it's going to be awesome, so you should all go to DjangoCon because it's going to be great. A good friend of mine is running it. You're attending BSD-Con, like BSD, like the operating system. Where is BSD-Con gonna be? BSD-Con? Asia BSD-Con. BSD can't. BSD can. Oh, because it's in Canada. Canada. All right, cool. So that's gonna be in Ottawa, I guess. Nice. When is that? That's gonna be coming up, a couple of weeks away. Nice. Let's see. What's the schedule? Are there any talks here that I'd want to go see? Let's find out. This website is very BSD-ish. It feels very odd. You'd like me to post it to GitHub. Okay, I'll put it up on GitHub. I'll go ahead and do that now, actually. No, I won't. I'll do that later. I'll tweet out the URL. Nice. Looks like they've got an interesting set of talks. I like that they're just doing like 2 tracks. I really like conferences that do the 2 tracks. It makes it a lot easier to figure out like where, or I guess they're 4 track. But it makes it a lot easier to figure out like where you want to go see stuff. You don't have to like jump around to a bunch of different rooms. That's the one downside to PyCon, is that PyCon is just, I mean, like, PyCon is absolutely massive. I think this year they're down to 5 tracks, but last year it was like 6. Yeah, this year it's 5 tracks. So like at any one time, you've got 5 talks that are probably really, really good talks that you have to pick from. It's just ridiculous how much stuff there. Nick T, you're seeing the Treehouse logo on every YouTube video you watch, up in the top left. Like that one over there, in the middle of my screen, or like on other videos you go watch, like video game streams or cooking streams, like cake making or whatever. Like, is it on all videos that you watch, or is it just this video, like the videos you watch of me doing this? Because if it's the videos you watch of me doing this, it's because I work for Treehouse and I'm doing these videos as part of my job at Treehouse. If it's every YouTube video that you go and watch, I have no idea. Maybe that's like an ad thing, like we've bought ads and they're showing up on your videos because you've watched some of our stuff. But I don't know. I don't know if that's I don't know if that's the way that they normally do that. So, shruggy, I have no idea. Marine, are you making it to PyCon? I know at one point you were talking about it, but I haven't heard from you since. And I know you're in the state, so. Nick T, no. Top left of other videos. I have no idea. I'm guessing it's probably that you've gone to Treehouse or you've watched Treehouse videos, like this one. Hi, welcome. And so you've been flagged by YouTube as being interested in Treehouse. And then Treehouse has probably purchased advertising on YouTube that says, anyone who's interested in Treehouse, show them our stuff. So you get like a little Treehouse logo as like a, you can click here to learn more about Treehouse thing. That's my guess. But I could be completely wrong on that. I have no idea. But that's my guess for how that's working. You don't know either, but it's apparently fixed now. Great. If it's fixed, it's fixed. That's awesome. Hey Mohan, how are you doing? You're here just in time for me to say goodbye. I'm about to go because it's noon. It's you got 1 minute till. So yeah, I know I definitely have a lot of PyCon talks I want to go see. This whole group right here, I definitely want to go watch. But at the same time, I also want to see like Hinnick's talk and Katie's talk and cat space stuff. That's fun. Oh, John, I know John. He's my doppelganger, sorta, kinda. He looks a lot like me. So yeah, so that's gonna be awesome. Fikra, if you thought it was cool, that's fine. And if you attended late, that's also fine. This video will be live on YouTube very shortly. You can watch the whole thing from the beginning, pause it whenever you want, copy down my code, do whatever. But I will get this up on GitHub eventually. It just may be a little while. Abdu, what's the best resource to learn web development with Python? You can't ask me that. I'm so biased. I mean, you know what I'm going to say. Treehouse, obviously. But outside of Treehouse, there is a really good book that I don't have close enough to me for me to hold up and show you. But there's a really good book called Python Crash Course, or Crash Course Python. I don't know which one that is. And it has a whole bunch of stuff about Python in it, but then there's also a chunk at the end about Django. That's really good for learning Python and Django. Or the official Django tutorial, and the official Django tutorial is really good, and the Django Girls tutorial is really good as well. Both of those are amazing. Buddy Lindsay has some really good videos about different bits and pieces of Django at godjango.com. And let's see, what else? Is there anybody else that I would immediately recommend off the top of my head? That's about it. But yeah, I mean, web development with Python isn't that different from web development with PHP or Ruby or whatever. It's web development is web development to some degree. Anyway, it is past noon. I have got so many things I got to do. I will see all of you in 2 weeks. I will not be here next week. Next week will be someone else. It will be James Churchill, one of my coworkers, and he'll most likely be doing C# stuff. So those of you who love C#, like Dark Dev, who pops in and out, we're gonna do C# next week. So be ready for that excitement. I don't even know what he's gonna do. I haven't even talked to him yet. I just know he's gonna do something. So it should be cool. But I will see you all in 2 weeks after PyCon. We will do something. I don't know what we're going to do, but we're going to do something fun. So send me ideas on Twitter, things that you'd like to see me cover. And yeah, that's it. And Naman, I will post it up on GitHub. I will tweet out a link to it once it's live on GitHub. So thank you all for watching, and I will see you next week.